When an 87-year-old great-grandmother became the victim of a violent knife attack earlier this year, the city was horrified. But from this brutality came an inspiring story. The victim, Vivian Squires, recovered from her near-fatal wounds and decided to reach out, not to other victims, but to other individuals like the career criminal who attacked her. You see, Vivian Squires is not your typical granny. She's a retired corrections officer who spent years working at some of New York's toughest prisons, trying to rehabilitate prisoners. Now she hopes she can do the same with her newly formed community group called the Gritty Granny Gang. We begin our story on the morning that Vivian Squires was attacked. At 6 a.m. on January 4th, 2009, Vivian awoke to see a man standing next to her bedroom window. Thinking it was her nephew who lives upstairs, she called out, "Tony?" Just then, the man lunged at Vivian, put a pillow over her face, and slashed her throat.
Cut me, cut my throat, cut me here. My back is like a map where he slashed. I didn't know who he was or why he was doing it and what had happened. I was shocked. I was totally in shock.
Though the man was much stronger than her, Vivian fought back.
At one time I decided, it's easier to just close my eyes and die. I could feel the blood, the cuts. And then something says, "Vivian, you got too much to do." And I started fighting again. We rolled on the floor and tussled. And I was trying to think of all the things I'd seen in the movies that you do to try to get free.
But nothing stopped her attacker until she simply held her breath and played dead. The man fled and Vivian called 911. She was taken to Mary Immaculate Hospital where she received 35 staples and dozens of stitches. She was released within 2 days. 2 months later, police arrested 33-year-old Andre Mathis and charged him with attempted murder.
But I believe there's a reason everything happens. And I'm still here. That's the joy, that I'm still here.
Still here and determined not to let this happen to other seniors. Vivian formed a group to mentor troubled youth and gang members to show them a better lifestyle. The name of the group? The Gritty Granny Gang. She's been getting a lot of support from the congregation at the New Jerusalem Baptist Church. Carlene Thorbs is a pastor. What attracted you to the Gritty Granny program?
Her desire to go forth and helping youth, which that's our future. If we lose our youth, we're going to lose the future. So that's what has impressed me the most. At this stage of her life, she still has that to go forth.
Sandra Brown, the director of Christian education, was struck by Vivian's resolve to extend youth programs beyond the congregation.
She has a long history of working with what we call people on the fringes, to embrace not only the children present, but the children in the community that are kind of lost and disconnected. So she asked me at that time, what could we do when we talk about ministry beyond the walls?
What do you think motivates Ms. Squires?
I think it's genuine love, and there's a sincerity for people. Because without that, it does not matter how artistic you are or how well you can speak. If you don't have a genuine and sincere desire to help people, I don't think she would be successful. And she has been, and I'm confident that she will be again.
At 87, Vivian Squires is no newcomer to lending a hand to people on society's fringes. In 1952, she began a long career as a corrections officer in the Women's House of Detention.
I had 21 of the best years of my life in that prison.
But she did more than just keep an eye on inmates. She began a program that taught them how to sew and make their own clothes. They even had fashion shows. In 1973, she retired from the Department of Corrections and opened the Co-workers Development Corporation, in which she taught ex-cons how to work and helped them get their lives on the right track.
I worked with hundreds of people. Started out with just women, and then I had the men in there too. And it was a series of businesses. You know, we had the factory and the restaurant, the beauty parlor and the boutique. They came from the prison and they came to me, and we had a job waiting for them. They had helped them get apartments. They got their children out of foster homes. And they learned how to work, and they stopped committing crimes.
Although the program was successful, it was closed in 1976 due to lack of funding.
When I found out they were closing the program and I had to tell them that we were going to close, they called me boss, and they said, "Boss, can we talk to you?" So we got a plan, and we were wondering if you would listen to us. So we sat in a circle and we listened, and they said, "If you just give us permission to go back and do all the things we were doing before we came to you, we'd have enough money to save the program."
They were actually asking her permission to use the profits from their earlier lives of crime to fund the program.
So we added it up, all the money that they made prostituting and shoplifting and selling drugs, and it was more than enough. But I couldn't say yes, and they didn't want to say yes. But they made a lot of money.
Now, 30 years later, she's still interested in changing the criminal mind and thinks she can learn something from the street gang mentality.
Well, I want to learn more about gangs, and they seem to be very successful in what they do. They get people to follow them. And I want to take a few lessons from some of the leaders.
You want to have leaders of gangs come speak to you, or you just want to find out?
I'm going to them.
You're going to them?
Yes.
Okay. Though some may be skeptical, her godson Tico, a fencing and martial arts instructor, thinks she is just the woman for the job.
She is a remarkable woman, and she has been consistent in everything she has done.
I mean, come on, Tico, do you really think that an 87-year-old woman is going to be able to communicate effectively to these young people?
I think that they'll take her quite seriously. I think they will respect her because she has the courage to confront them.
But while her godson and members of her congregation all support her endeavors, not everyone is as optimistic.
I think it's pointless. I honestly feel it's not going to work because these individual kids nowadays don't have any structure.
We spoke to Frank Perry, a former gang member who founded the Wave Space Impact Group, which targets at-risk youth. Perry and two of his group members took us on a tour of their neighborhood where gang violence is a part of daily life.
I was a member of the gang that they called the Bloods, the New York Scarface, non-trade gangster blood gang. I wanted to let everyone know I was the most gangsterous person from this area. I wanted everyone to see that there was no one that could mess with me. It was cool to be the gangster. It was cool for you to grow up. All the girls liked the gangsters. All the guys feared the gangsters, you know.
They use a different approach than Vivian, but convey the same message.
I feel if us three right here could really take these kids and send them a message so that they know that they don't have to be running around knocking old ladies over the head, or they don't got to be running sticking people up, and that there's other ways for them to get money, there's other ways for them to make a career with their life. That's what we're trying to do.
And while Frank may doubt that Vivian's gang could have any impact, for her part, Vivian remains determined. As for her attacker, Andre Mathis, he sits in a cell on Rikers Island awaiting trial, facing up to 25 years in prison. Have you forgiven Andre Mathis?
Well, you know, when you go around without forgiving people, it tells on you, and I suffer more than they do. You know, a lot of people you're angry with and you won't forgive them, and they're out having a good time, and you're suffering and miserable. So it doesn't pay. So I turn all my problems over to the Lord, and I say, you take care of them.